In the mid-season trailer for Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels, we saw a mysterious cloaked figure speaking with Ezra, who asked to be called Old Master. Since that time, we've had reports of action figures of our favorite red-tattooed Zabrak, known as Maul, that have hinted at his return on Star Wars Rebels. There have even been YouTube videos suggesting that the Old Master is indeed Maul, but up until now, there had not been an official statement saying that Maul is the one asking to be called Old Master. Well, now it is official. Hey YouTube, Urban Acolyte TV, and my name is Prince. If you've read Anthony Breznican's article that posted Thursday morning on Entertainment Weekly, then you know that Dave Filoni has finally confirmed that the Old Master is Maul. On this video, I'm going to explore several questions based on things that I've picked up from the clips from the Twilight of the Apprentice episode where we see Ezra with Maul. I'm also going to ask how these might relate to things that I noticed in the most recent episode of Rebels, and that episode was Chopper Base. If you're in a part of the world where Chopper Base has not yet aired, you may want to hold off on this video if you're trying really hard to avoid spoilers. So before we get into all of the Maul stuff, I wanted to take up this growing tension between Kanan and Ezra. In the Shroud of Darkness episode, Yoda is behind the Force visions that Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka experience in the old Jedi Temple on Lothal. When Kanan confronts the temple guard, who Yoda later reveals to be a former Jedi who fell to the dark side and became the Grand Inquisitor, he's told that if he attempts to confront Vader and the other Inquisitors, he will lose. The rebel cell making up Phoenix Squadron will be crushed, and Ezra will become a servant of evil. The temple guard goes on to tell Kanan that Ezra will eventually be consumed by the dark side. Now this implies that Ezra's fall to the dark side is inevitable. Kanan is told to stand aside and allow Ezra to be eliminated before he is consumed by the darkness. Now recall my video from the Rebels mid-season trailer when I predicted that Kanan would experience a Force vision as a trial, very much like Luke Skywalker's trial in the cave on Dagobah. I said that Kanan would have to deal with his own feelings of inadequacy because he didn't feel that he could be a master to Ezra when he was still a Padawan. The truth is that Kanan became a Jedi Knight by performing numerous good deeds before and after meeting Hera, taking Ezra on as his apprentice, and by defeating the Grand Inquisitor in their battle above Mustafar. So this all sets up the Chopper Base episode where I noticed this growing tension between Kanan and Ezra. Did you also notice it? Pay attention to the two of them during the lightsaber sparring sequence. Ezra's playful and he's joking, but Kanan is very serious. Now, one way of looking at things from Kanan's perspective is that, well, they're about to face the Inquisitors and possibly Darth Vader. The last time Ezra and Kanan faced Vader, things didn't exactly turn out well for them, as Vader dismantled both of them with very little effort. You also have to ask yourself, is Kanan still carrying the message from his vision? Is he still thinking that Ezra could fall to the dark side? And would this force him to have to confront his apprentice? Is Kanan worried that Ezra's ability in the Force could eclipse his own? Now, I'm not going to attempt to answer that question. I just want you to sit with it as we go into the season finale. My next question has to do with Darth Maul. What is Maul? Who has Maul become? And what are his affiliations? In the teaser clip that was posted with Anthony Breznican's article on the Entertainment Weekly website, Maul and Ezra are alone. Now this presents a whole new set of questions about the whereabouts of Kanan and Ahsoka that would allow for Ezra to be alone with Maul. I mean, based on the dialogue, I'm going to assume that Kanan and Ahsoka are fighting the Inquisitors, and somehow Ezra gets separated from them, which creates this situation where he can meet Maul. So imagine this scenario. Kanan, Ahsoka, and Ezra are all in the temple on Malachor. The Inquisitors show up, and since this is the finale, I would imagine that the third Inquisitor will be revealed. So they all start to fight. Ezra somehow gets separated, and this is how he ends up all alone to meet Maul. So their conversation begins, and Maul reveals that the Inquisitors and their master are his enemies. He tells Ezra that he's not a Jedi, but that he was a Force wielder. And there's been questions about this remark. Can Maul still use the Force? I really can't answer that question. Not yet anyway. But in the Dark Lords of the Sith video game, which was the sequel to the Knights of the Old Republic, Mitra Surik lost her connection to the Force for a time as part of the fallout from Revan using the Shadow Generator on Malachor 5 to end the Mandalorian War. And if you've played the game, then you know that Jedi Master Surik eventually regains her connection to the Force as her story progresses. Now in the official canon, I cannot think of any examples of people losing their connection to the Force or having it taken away. And if you know of any, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Okay, but let's get back to what I was saying about Maul. So Maul learns that he is Mother Talzin's son, and I mean like her actual biological child. And he learns this right before she's killed. And I talk about that in my previous video on Maul that I posted about 2 weeks ago. There should be a link in the cards to check that out. But anyway, my point is that I'm not sure how the Force works for the Night Brothers and the Night Sisters on Dathomir. And what I mean is think about Savage Opress and look at what Mother Talzin did to him. Was he Force sensitive to any degree before she used her magic to change him? Also, consider what he says when he dies and his body reverts back to its original state. He says that he was never as strong as Maul. So I don't know if Maul's mention of having been a Force user means he can't use the Force any longer. We'll have to wait and see the episode next week to learn what he meant. For now, I'm going to assume that Maul meant that he's not a Jedi and he's not a Sith, but that he still has the Force. And maybe he's just lying to Ezra. I mean, I can easily see Maul creating a ruse to trick Ezra in order to gain his confidence. So imagine if Maul appears to Ezra's compassion. He tells him all about how he had power and he was destined for greatness, but now he's just a shell of his former self. He's a broken old man. So whatever secrets are in the temple will give him the power to help Ezra, and in return, he'll share this knowledge. He'll teach Ezra how to also become powerful. So see, in the article, Dave Filoni says that the temple on Malachor most likely stores something of value to the Sith. Unfortunately, it requires people to work in tandem to retrieve that item or whatever that piece of knowledge is. And what Filoni says is that the temple was likely constructed to keep other Sith out. If you've got this temple storing some holocron or a dark side secret that requires teamwork to retrieve, only the best of the Sith can get to it. The problem is that we often characterize the Sith as being corrupt and untrustworthy. They can't work together because a master and an apprentice would be too busy backstabbing each other. The truth is that to unlock the most powerful secrets of the dark side require a master and an apprentice to completely trust one another, at least for that moment. Palpatine's own words prove this. After he learned the last of the secrets of the dark side with his master, Darth Plagueis, he says that unlocking the secret required the work of two Sith, one to serve as bait and the other to serve as the vessel. So what does Maul need with Ezra? Well, Ezra's seeking power and knowledge. And even if Ezra does eventually turn to the dark side, for now there's still a flicker of light in him. He's still young and naive, and Maul can exploit all of these in order to get what he wants so that he can confront his enemies, the Sith and the Inquisitors. So my last question has to do with Ezra turning. I've wrestled with this question the entire season, and if you asked me from the very beginning, I said that Ezra would fall. As a matter of fact, on one of my very first videos, I said that I believed that Ezra would find a Sith holocron, fall to the dark side, and play some part in Ben Solo becoming the master of the Knights of Ren. Later, I took a step back after I saw Ezra's growing ability to communicate through the Force with other creatures. After last week's episode, along with the visions from the Shroud of Darkness, I still see Ezra looking for power to overcome his doubts, his ego, and his desire to defeat the Empire. So I'm not sure if Ezra will turn to the dark side, but what I can see in Ezra's future is that he grows disillusioned with both sides. The Empire and the Sith are responsible for the death of his parents, and the Jedi, well, the Jedi are telling him not to fight. I mean, look, we all know that Ezra's not the New Hope that Obi-Wan mentions in the message on his holocron, and neither are Ahsoka or Kanan. We know that Luke is the New Hope because he's the only one who can face Vader and the Emperor. And I think we're going to start to see Ezra venture down a different path. All along in my videos, I've been hinting at the different ways of knowing the Force. In A New Hope, all we hear about is the Jedi. We're basically told by Tarkin that Vader is the last relic of that ancient religion. We don't know anything about the Emperor being Vader's master or the Sith at that point. Later, we are eventually introduced to the Sith, and so we have these two different religions based around the study of the Force. In The Force Awakens and in the new canon material, we learn about other factions. There's the Church of the Force, where people of various religions that we previously knew nothing about gather under a banner of following the Jedi teachings. What we see in The Force Awakens is a small community of hermits led by Laura Santeca, but there are actually other hermit communities scattered around Jakku. And also, we have no idea how many others could be scattered throughout the galaxy. Then there are these Force-sensitive people exploring the Force completely on their own, like Maz Kanata. Then there are the Acolytes of the Beyond, who we know very little about. Could they be fanatics of the dark side, or are they some kind of cult who worships Darth Vader? Later we have the Knights of Ren, and that's if we can even consider them a faction. So my thoughts for now are that the Knights of Ren that we see with Ben Solo are a group of Luke's former students who follow Ben when he leaves Luke's new Jedi Order. So if that is all the case and it's all true, then we have people trained as a Jedi who leave the Jedi Order, but we don't know if they actually follow the dark side or if they've simply made the decision to not become Jedi anymore. So when we start to talk about Ezra turning, what is he turning to? He could simply walk away and choose a different path, the same way Ahsoka did. And he could possibly create another faction. And it would just be a faction of people who left the Jedi path. And this wouldn't make him a gray Jedi, since that term doesn't exist in canon. Anyway, I would like to hear your thoughts for Ezra's outcome, and your thoughts on Maul's intentions in the Twilight of the Apprentice episode. Do you think Maul is looking for something to help him kill Vader and the Emperor? Do you think Maul faces Vader so that the rebels can escape Malachor? In a sense, sacrificing himself. And then what about Ezra? Does Ezra solidify his path towards embracing the dark side? So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if this is your first time seeing Urban Acolyte TV, go ahead and subscribe. I normally post 4 times a week, but right now I can't really commit to a set schedule because I have a really hectic schedule over the next 6 weeks. But the best time to know when I do post a new video is to subscribe. And I'm still going to shoot for 4 videos a week. Also, if you're already subscribed, be sure to share this video with your other friends who like Star Wars. Or maybe some who don't like Star Wars. Just share it anyway. For more videos on the Rebels season finale, you can check out this video I did in February when we first learned the name of the finale, Twilight of the Apprentice. You can also check out this other video I did on Maul possibly becoming Ezra's new teacher. Well, that's all I've got for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you can have a life-changing experience from following the Star Wars stories the same way I have. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the Force be with you. Bye.